the second round of the Nukeshot Endurance Series. We're here for race 1 of the Lago di Maggiore circuit for the European Grand Prix. We have stayed in Italy since our last race at Monza, and yeah, the race 1 is also incidentally the split one, which means we have the pro class in the LMP cars and we have the AM drivers in the GT3s. Traels666 putting in an absolutely blistering lap time in the qualifying, and Splurge also being up there alongside Joe of the Fire, Tetsu Kobura in P4, and the half the race gone boys in the bottom part of the LMP field. We didn't have the best qualifying.
Yeah, we were struggling for pace on this. We had some trouble getting enough speed through the corners, I think, and at very, very fast pace. And I think it was a bit closer up front.
Also, I don't think, I mean, personally for me, Maggiore has yet to become one of my strong circuits.
It's a difficult track for sure. There's a lot to learn, and it takes a lot of practice to get as good as some of the more methodical guys, I think, in the field that actually do a lot of consistent practice for every round.
Yep.
It's not one of the tracks you can just wing it at and do well like some of the tracks you've been racing at for years. This is a new track and it's a long one as well, so there's a lot of difficult corners.
Yes, and it's yeah, it is indeed, and true. So with all the excuses out of the way, let's take a look at the GT3 field. Only 4 cars on the grid today, with Nilsemann
frantically warming up the tires already.
Very early on, but he must feel that he really needs the heat.
For sure, I think he was definitely feeling the heat when he did the lap that earned him the pole position he's on now, because
maybe he'd consider
very, very fast this time.
Maybe he'd consider also playing some R&D slow jams with those tires.
For sure, for sure.
Anyways,
bring the heat up in here.
Anyways, Nilsemann edging out the very fast and competitive Wybear in qualifying, and off Apple in P3 with Ninja Karma in the other Corvette in P4. It might only be 4 cars in the GT field of today, but it's a very competitive one if we're going to be judging by the last race at Monza.
Yeah, yes, for sure. I think it's a natural thing with the way the cars are built that it's going to be closer racing. You're going to have more actual battling going on, whereas in the other cars you'll have more of a pace difference on certain parts of the track. So it's going to be more lively and interesting to watch the GT3 cars at times.
I definitely think you have a good point there, and it has also turned out to be true on multiple occasions. Let's get some data on the drivers and cars at this point. We have been enjoying this scenic view of the opening lap, but now it is time to get real as the LMP drivers are heading for the last turn. Coming onto the home straight, it is Traels666, or C. John, if I should, or Crazy John, the crazy Greek with mad skills, leading him out, and it is his to decide when to push the accelerator.
CJ definitely looking very fast through all the practice and paces.
And here they go, coming down towards turn 1.
Lower it down towards T1 here. Watch the Porsche of Traels666, just not really braking at all for that. I can bring up a ton of excuses, but I won't waste any time doing that because we have a very, very serious thing going on here. Joe has massive damage from that.
Joe has damage. I think Splurge too.
A lot of time lost.
Splurge too has damage.
He got some damage as well.
And somehow I managed
obviously ruined.
And I managed to drive right up into the back of you, and somehow that gave me some kind of drivetrain damage also. So I am absolutely ruined also.
So this leaves an unexpected, quite large gap up to the 2 clean escapees from this carnage we had at T1. Carnage at T1 is becoming a theme already this season in the pro field. Not a theme anyone is enjoying at all, I don't think.
No, and surprising. Let's take a look at the AM drivers who are starting the race now. just quickly as I glanced upon the map to see, Wybear just going absolutely straight into turn 1.
Seems like Wybear took instructions on T1 from myself there.
I was just about to
I
make...
do believe the instructions not to break through T1 are in fact incorrect. Do not follow that at any time. In the front we have Nilseman pulling out a gap immediately. Seems very, very controlled and steady through the corners, and the Corvette is known for just having ferocious speed down the straights.
Will be interesting to see.
Fabel is definitely keeping up so far. Whoops. Pushing his car to the limit as we see going through a cambered section of the track there.
The BMW Z4 is not a car that I really know. I've never tried it myself. So I actually don't know where its strengths lay and where its weaknesses lay.
Same situation.
Apple's driving and Apple's racing here will have to show us that in the course of the season. We're not prepared to spend 450 of my hard-earned credits.
As we see here, everyone involved in the T1 incident in the pro field dive into the pits to get their damage fixed.
Yeah, 4 cars coming in.
Continuing to not be on anything resembling focus or concentration, I put on fresh tires after 1 lap of racing.
But so did I.
Ah, brilliant!
It was brilliant indeed.
Half the race gone boys are gonna absolutely smash this with their fresh hard tires they just put on. So in the front we have CJ eking out a bit more of a gap on Tetsu at this point. CJ seeming almost untouchable through a lot of what we saw in the testing days before, and especially in practice and qualifying.
Certainly since CJ wasn't participating at the first race in Monza, any success ballast on his car, which means that he was just able, and as we see, he's just able to put down a really fast pace, even on those hard tires, consistently 3/10 up on his first lap, already building a nice gap down to Tetsu Kubura in P2. Tetsu Kubura, who just joined the newly formed Rossi racing team, formed by Gugas 99, and serves as kind of as a backup team or the second team of the Martini racing team that he's running already. So it'll be interesting to see how they fare out against each other, because right now it's something that we saw last year with myself when I was in the BSC second team, starting out the season, that I was all of a sudden in front, and that created a little bit of drama. Anyways, Tetsu having started strongly, gonna clean your way here through the first couple of turns. Notoriously difficult to get a good run out here. He does manage to. Joe of the Fire on super softs. Now this was something that we actually also considered for the race doing, but we ended up not doing. And Joe, he's known to be good on his tires, so not surprised to see him trying to pull off this move, the super softs.
Also a very meticulous tester and a guy who knows what his options are, and he's been trying out a bit of both, I think, a lot of the time. So he makes informed choices, not just speculative.
He never made.
Hopeful.
He seems to me sometimes to must have some German genes in him, in the way that he's very serious about stuff. That he's very serious about testing, as you just mentioned, about the whole technical and the setup side of things, and also about the strategy. So it'll be interesting to see if Splurge on the medium tires have any say here.
As we just get a quick glimpse of you and me just cruising along, trying to figure out what the hell just happened.
Yeah, I think at this point we are both kind of beaten on a psychological level, not really feeling.
I'm still not anywhere close to where I want to be racing. I felt kind of ill shortly before the race, and I'm still kind of groggy at this point. Look for me to make more carnage very shortly.
So in the GTs, it's in the GTs, it's Nilseman leading off Apple through this notoriously difficult. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is turn 5. It's a shame that they didn't name all the corners on these custom polyphony tracks, because it would make it a little bit easier to keep track of it, but obviously it would also be difficult to keep coming up with names. It would probably end up being funny in the long run. As Nilsemann coming down towards the carousel, this really funky turn banked right-hander, which you can carry much more speed through than what is perceived. And Nilsemann just beginning to open a little bit of gap, and he is on the soft tires. It will be interesting to see what kind of a tire choice.
We have softer compounds for all of the GT3 field. Apple running the softs as well. They have seemingly very equal tire wear as well.
So no spread on that. I would.
Interestingly though, we have Ninja Karmas on the super softs, and looking at his tire wear, it's actually pretty much equal to the guys on the softs at this moment, if not in fact slightly less, and also more of a balance wear, I think you can say.
Yes.
It looks like you have some certain corners that gives a lot of sliding to the left, which ruins your left front. So the super soft compound seems to maybe kind of negate this somehow.
Well, it seems to be true from what testing I have done as well, is that I could also actually make the super soft tires last for a little bit longer than the soft tires, simply because I could go around at a fast pace without pushing the tires really to the limit at all, and that meant that I could just nimbly drive around.
Exactly.
But the thing is that if you lose concentration with this and you begin giving it too much input, you begin forcing the car into the turns, you will wear out those tires really quickly. So it really demands you, of the driver, to have a consistent, smooth style of driving, I'd say, before it's really possible to pull off.
Yeah.
As we see CJ,
someone perhaps not known for his smooth style, thrashing along the course here, making his way through the front end of the GT3 field is Bert Sijan.
CJ absolutely just hacking away at the corners.
Yeah, I think perhaps in a way like myself, he's one of the more aggressive drivers in the field and likes to maybe throw the car a bit more into the corners than some of the other races. So it does look a bit frantic at times, but what a blistering pace he's setting here early in the race.
And it's done with a lot of precision. I mean, the lines are clean. Oh, and just as I say that, CJ gets hit by the curse. Maybe I should shut my mouth, because even though this isn't a live transmission of the race, if it were, I would be holding my mouth with a hand, trying not to speak anymore. What's happening here is gonna happen no matter what, so I'll just speak on as CJ makes sort of a big mistake.
See what I was talking about just throwing the car into some of the corners?
Do you see the pace out of turn 2? There's absolutely, he just breaks that 100km/h barrier in no time at all. He seemed to be going around the turn on hard tires at speeds that I've just not seen possible for anybody else yet. Must really have a good setup for that Audi for this race. We're down to turn 5, very difficult turn here. Tetsu Kabura also on his way through the traffic, but he has quite a gap already up to CJ. And closing up the gap to him is Joe of the Fire. Let's look at those super soft tires. They are getting a little bit worn. The question is though, how much will they drop off and to what level at the end? Is what will have all the same in the end.
Also still keeping up pace is Splurge. He's continuing to put in very, very decent lap times on the medium tires, so he will have less of a drop-off over the course of his stint, no matter how long it will be.
It'll be interesting to see if Splurge will be able to pull off what some drivers did at Monza and do a one-stop on the medium, which would be a really competitive alternative to trying to compete with the two-stop on the super softs, which is obviously a difficult one. I think our tactic was just to go for the one-stop on the hards and see what kind of pace we could mount up, but having difficulties already early on. That said, I do think I might have tucked into somewhat of a rhythm at this point. Let us see here. Nilsemann still leaning off the GT field, ever increasing his lead, but those front tires are beginning to look worn.
Just getting pushed wide because he
a nice save
just
there.
got frightened by the speed and the sudden positioning of Splurge in the Toyota TS050.
And the track, much terrifying overtaking when it comes to traffic, because it's quite twisty and it varies a lot in width So there are kind of a few places on the track that has a bottleneck effect when you come up to it and there's traffic, and some of these places are just really difficult to overtake on. As you see, who was that? Nilseman. Was that Nilseman having trouble? Oh, contact! Oh my God! Oh my!
Yeah.
I was lost for words for a second.
I'm not really sure what happened. I went for a bit too aggressive of a move on Apple, and he didn't see me coming, so he did turn in slightly early for the corner, but I was moving at a rate and in a position he was not expecting at all, so we had a very hard initial contact. And the second part, to be honest, for some reason I knocked the controller off the table as I hit him. So I was looking at the controller on the floor when I hit him the second time. So I paused the game, but apparently the AI can't make miracles.
Oh, that would have been it would have been a nice actually way to just ghost through.
Yeah, everything just turned to shit. Rest in peace, Apple.
Can we see some Fs in chat for off Apple?
Sorry, dude.
Such a hard-working organizer, and he gets hit by this. But anyways, ish happens.
Another guy trying to recover from struggles is Y-Bear. He had that initial instructions by Traels trademark. No braking incident in T1, and he's been trying to make up the placings ever since.
Well, Y-Bear was actually, I mean, at Monza he was by far the quickest driver. If he can pull out the same kind of pace advantage here, he might still have a say in the race. However, he wasn't able to match the qualifying pace of Nilseman, and right now he is still behind off Apple. That pit stop coming up might change it.
Nilseman, having set some very fast laps early in the race, seems to be on a almost kind of similar pace to Y-Bear. Y-Bear setting very fast laps, but he did lose a lot of time in that early incident, having to also do a pit stop to repair damage, I believe.
Indeed, yeah. Nilseman pitting after only 15 minutes of driving, which would have to see him pulling out stints that are considerably longer on the same compound of tires here through the middle part of the race. It will be very interesting to see whether or not he'll be able to pull this off.
Ninja Karma continuing to opt for the super soft tires instead of the regular softs.
And on a pitting rhythm that seems to follow his teammate as well.
Ninja Karma must have some extra confidence in his ability to either save the tires or fight with the worn tires. As a former Corvette driver, I have to say the Corvette is very good on worn tires. So you have the option to push further into the wear and still get decent lap times and decent consistency in the way that you race. So that might be what he's going for.
We saw you and Steve do that a couple of times. We saw you do that on multiple occasions last season, setting an unbelievable pace, more or less. You did it, but it was very swift indeed. Ninja Karma, Nilseman, it's a 1-2 for the Race Like Airplanes, the Condor Racing boys.
Something that's not a 1-2 is me. I think I'm going to just vanish real quickly here.
It looked like somebody is about to retire indeed.
Bloop. Yeah.
Bloop.
We have you trying to keep up with the front guys, having your rhythm ruined on several occasions already early in the race, with a big old gap to the next guy.
It is a big old gap, but the lap times are also, I must say, I find my lap times quite steady, and I was actually into a good rhythm at this point. I was pushing quite hard, not over the limit. I was making a couple of mistakes, but I was able to put down a consistent pace and just keep Splurge on a leash, and just hoping for maybe him to make a mistake, or for him to have a strategy that would play out in my hands in the long run. So this will be something to follow.
Yeah, I have to say I was very impressed seeing your lap times. It's very consistent. As you can see, it's a chaotic race. There's a lot of traffic, and it's a hard course for traffic as well. So you will get a lot of fluctuations in your lap times.
As we see Joe of the Fire pitting in to what is his second pit stop now, after that early pit stop due to the damage. And he is now out in P4 chasing Splurge, who just managed to sneak by, but Splurge on those worn mediums, I don't think he is gonna have long to go in that P3.
He is coming up on his pit window trying to stretch those mediums for a one stop, but he will be losing a vast amount of time over the last lap or two he decides to do before making his pit stop.
I think those tires will be absolutely gone if he decides to go for a one stop here.
It will be interesting to see, will he try to defend and take some chances against Joe, trying to maybe slow him up or just impeding his progress as much as he can, or will he just let him pass and be safe about it?
It's always a hard decision also, because ultimately you end up losing time yourself if you choose to battle it out and be super defensive, and that would mean losing time on the drivers behind as well. So it's always a difficult decision whether to fight or whether just to let somebody cruise by because you may go faster here. Well, Apple gets passed cleanly by Splurge, and then Joe having an even better run down there on the Audi. Just look at the top speed of that Audi.
You see that way it just
rips along on those
so
super
much
soft
more
towers.
control on the braking.
Oh my!
I think this is going to be a very short process. He's holding off on Joe, but here he makes his move.
Just comes right through on
Blasting
the outside.
pass,
He has
braking
the exit speed.
hard.
Oh, that was a close call. Splurge not pitting in yet. So interesting to see Joe of the Fire back up into P3. And no real surprises here. Good rhythm being laid down now. Next up on his marked list is Tetsu Kobura, the American for the Rossi Racing team. Also
probably running a one-stop strategy, but he is on the hard tires.
Actually, I just see if you compare the lap times of me and Tetsu, I was actually a bit faster through this section of the race than Tetsu, so I think...
But your speed doesn't matter if your teammate rams you off in T1.
That is a good point indeed.
Didn't think about that, did you? In the front we still have CJ just blasting along. He's setting incredibly fast and consistent times at this point, and it's getting harder and harder to see what anyone will be able to do about this.
It's a big gap he has down to Tetsu, let alone the gap to Joe, and Joe is on different strategy.
CJ just extending everything out of that corner there.
Look at that fastest lap, 148. I would leave, not 148, but 140.8 obviously. Let's see Joe of the Fire. What is his fastest lap so far? Well, he is into the 39s, but not by much, and he will need to make up more time than that per lap. Those tires are getting real long. You see him just struggling with a lot of understeer coming into the last corner, having...
Continues to stay out. He's committed to making this one stop, but it is looking a very tall order at this point.
Look at this. The last lap time we could see there was the 145.4. That is by no means something that you'd like to see on your lap time board when racing.
You know, I think it's quite possible he did have to pit after getting just mauled by me, and it's possible that he made a quick decision to put on a softer compound tire because he thought, I've already done warm-up, I've already done one lap on these. Maybe he thought that was an option. I don't know what went on in the meeting room before making the tactics here.
That's true. The engineers might have chosen some kind of decision or taken some kind of chance, just trying to salvage something out of the race after that bad start indeed. Fire P3, just look at the top speed. As I said it before, impressive indeed. And I do believe they are running a high downforce setup even of that Audi. Yeah, they would. It is a high downforce track indeed. Look at those long sweeping curves. It is a great track anyway. Really interesting, really entertaining to drive at, and also a difficult track to master. It seems always that part down to the fact that Polyphony is quite good at designing their tracks, but also down to the fact that, as Traels mentioned earlier, it's a track that you've never seen in your life before, so when you see him for the first time, it is literally the first time. You've never seen a Grand Prix, you've never And I mean, for many of us racing fans, I mean, it's not like I'd say I've seen every track of the world, very, very far from, but at least the most famous ones, the most known ones, and especially the European ones. I know a lot of them.
Splurge pits now.
Splurge in the pits.
Decides to end it there at 24, almost 25 minutes.
Yeah, this will be a two-stop with a very short last stint as come around on the outside there. Maybe suffering a bit from the fact that the Porsche has no visible mirrors when you're in the cockpit view. Something I would definitely like to have added. Splurge coming on with some pressure here. Splurge with the pressure now. He's coming on with the pressure because he has some fresh tires.
In the front, Joe's made up the difference to Tetsu. How has he managed to do that so quickly?
Well,
that's crazy.
The lap times, they tell all the story.
And Tetsu.
Oh,
Tetsu's has had. Oh wow, that was a crazy moment. I thought he had damage for a second there.
We have a couple of dog-related issues. Some scratching on the couch. That is mildly distracting me for a moment. I apologize for that. But it's becoming a thing here on the channel, at least when we are streaming from my place.
And you just had a small touch with Ninja. That's gonna, fortunately nothing happened, but that's gonna cost you just a little bit of time.
Splurge
makes an absolute 100% metal ballsy move there. He just didn't care about the dangers. He just pushed his way through, and he's gonna maintain the gap to you. Interesting that he hasn't actually caught up already. I think this shows the great rhythm and pace you were having at this point in the race, because theoretically he should get up on you quickly. He was already ahead. It's a very, very fast car, the Toyota, and it's a very nicely handling car. I think it's one of the stronger picks for this track.
Definitely, the Toyota seems to be going very well on the medium tires. As
we see Ninja Karma has to pit. His tires were absolutely done.
They were absolutely hammered.
Didn't see him have any damage from the short incident with you. It was a GT3 car. They are designed to take impacts from the side, so
that's true.
Probably nothing will have happened.
The end of the race at Monza, and this is just a comment on tires, because I suspect that the game might have a bug that we haven't really been aware of, which I'm not really true, or I'm not really sure, but if it's true or not,
saucy.
But we'll have to look into that. But I mean, Joe, when he put in his really, really fast lap times, I was quite sure he didn't do that on hards. I was quite sure also that he didn't make a late pit stop to put on a fresh set of hards. It would be...
Yeah, I don't think we get info on the type of tires. I don't think it updates.
No, exactly. That's exactly my point. I think it just shows the starting compound, and therefore we could be a little fooled by what goes on with tires. Of course, the wear will always show us if it displays properly. Fingers crossed. Please, Cass, do a proper job. Anyways, Splurge is having caught up here, and the battle is heating up.
Splurge is now probably in the slipstream.
Well within the slipstream, and it is time to go defensive on my part.
Tires under braking. He's going to get closer now.
That's almost launched.
This is the section where he should make up the biggest amount of time in the shortest time frame, and you see instantly he's closer now. The Toyota has ferocious acceleration, as do the...
Oh, was that a little bit of lag? I think it was.
I think it was the stress lag we talked about last time.
Stress lag indeed.
Yeah. Obviously a very stressful situation. This is the closest racing we've had in a while in the LMP class.
But I must say, look at myself at this moment, still keeping it composed under pressure from Splurge. Mind you, I am on the hard compound and my tires are worn. Albeit I have a little less weight in the car at this moment, I am not far away from my first pit stop. In a couple of minutes. Oh, as I go very defensive down straight, coming down to the carousel.
Swervy boy.
Yes, I'm indeed trying to show Splurge that I will not give easily as I make a mistake, and Splurge does a very, very good job of not running right into the back of me.
You
That
probably had to hit the brakes pretty hard not to slam into the back right there, but you both pick it up. The gap has now increased ever so slightly due to his panic save to not destroy
definitely
both of you.
showing the effect of the... Oh, as Nilsemann has an off! I don't think there was contact there. It certainly didn't look like it, as Splurge is right upon my tail. I was about to say that it looked like he was gaining good effect from that Toyota, the reaction time trainer that I know they're using at the Toyota team. I've seen it at the motor show at a race in Copenhagen where they had bought it. So.
Oh yeah, we both tried that.
Oh, as both of us go very deep on the brakes there. Splurge also going a bit too deep. It comes across nicely. Cuts the apex of the corner.
Gets a bit squirmy on the exit though.
That gives
hybrid system of the Toyota is just ferocious at lower speeds. It doesn't care what gear you're in, doesn't care what revs you're doing. It just smashes along and you just have to hold on and hope that it goes straight.
See once more coming down to turn 5. One of the turns that I do have a little bit of struggling with coming out of. As you can see, Splurge is just able to get that sooner.
If this was iRacing, someone would say the leader is pitting now. The leader is pitting now.
CJ in for what is probably going to be his only stop at the half the race gone mark. Pretty perfectly timed on that 17. Joe of the Fire, P2 now.
He's staying out, so we might get a bit of a closer situation here.
CJ's coming out right now, actually.
Coming out there, moving into T1. There in the back you see his teammate, Joe of the Fire. This is a close 1-2 at the moment. Joe still lacking his pit stop, so...
Well, he has been in once, but of course still lacking his second pit stop.
Minus,
so he will...
minus the damage pit stop that most of the field had, obviously.
Indeed. Tetsu in also for his, what would be his only stop on his one-stop strategy. Indeed, hot tires coming on here again. And onto the track again in P3. Let's see here as I go into the pit lane as well. This seems to be...
Splurge stays out.
Obviously, yeah, on the fresh mediums.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So see the Porsche mechanics doing their thing. Getting fuel. It'll be interesting to see whether that will be enough fuel for the remainder of the race. Still opting for a short stop here. Splurge P4 now really trying to put down the pace that he really had it before, but he's just getting squirmy on the exit there. That is not what he's wanting. He's just wanting to put time into me and maybe to gain time on Tetsu. Getting hit by the curse right there. Over my Splurge. Getting a little squirmy there again. Tetsu Kabura coming down towards the carousel.
The second Toyota on track, showing its great pace. Still losing a bit of time to the top 2 guys in the Audis, as we see Joe making his scheduled pit stop.
Joe has a little bit of damage.
Joe had a bit of damage there. We did not see what happened, but he must have had some incident. You see the front right of the car has damage. They don't bother fixing the glass for some reason, as they fix the rest of the car.
There is no, that's true. They just
some kind of aesthetic choice. I'm not sure why.
No, but it's true.
I'm not here to call the shots on what's right and what's wrong. I just feel like they should fix that as well.
Joe, is he gonna get past here? He is past.
Having to hold off a little bit just to make sure that they both agreed what was going to happen.
Losing a single second or two on the pass of Wybear, but you are deemed to lose a couple of seconds whenever you hit traffic in the LMP cars through the first section of the track there. There is just one line waiting to go through. And even if you go on the outside of a slower car of the GP cars, it is possible, but you will still lose time. As Joe is catching up to Ninja Karma in the Corvette.
Ninja Karma just throwing up some dust in his face. Doesn't seem to face Joe at all. He just calmly picks the perfect clean line on the inside. Making his way through, not slowing either one down. Nice move by both of you guys.
As we see, Nilsemann still leading the GTs. Well, the last lap times we've seen from him has been somewhat consistent also. Perhaps a bit of an odd one with the 159.4. Yet he's right back into the stride.
That incident where he went off as you were passing.
Yeah,
and he must have had some damage from that. You can see he had a pit stop after that. So
indeed, but
he's at the moment trying to resettle into a fast rhythm. We see he's
155.1 though.
So pretty well.
155.1 though is a stunning lap time here at Maggiore. It's a GT3 car. I remember
on fire.
I remember when I had my first session here, leading into the season 3 preview event. Sorry, I was having a hard time getting my Porsche 911 RSR underneath 2 minutes, and that would be on any compound basically. So seeing him do 155.1, it is hugely impressive. Ninja Karma, and as you see, he's just not able to match the lap times of his teammate here, Tetsu. A little wide there, Ninja. Seemed to recover quite well. What about Wybear? It's been a long time since we have had a look at how he's doing. His lap times are fairly consistent, I must say, and fairly fast also, but will they be fast enough to be catching up with Ninja at any point? It'll be interesting to see now on the medium tires.
Maybe.
Maybe might be, or is he?
We're not really sure about these things. It's hard to tell if it does update or not. It's also hard to not comment on it because it's a very relevant thing trying to figure out what's going on, what's the situation in the race. Is that a different compound? Is it faster? Is it slower? We don't really know. We're probably going to just continue talking about it.
Yeah, because now
having to shut up about it we'll probably just continue talking about it. Ninja opting for the rare drifting on the inside curve emoji.
The rallycross line is surely an interesting one. Maybe he's trying to cool his super soft tires down by giving a bit of respite from the tarmac. Might just be
quite possibly the strategy there.
As we see, actually, Wybear is closing up on Ninja Karma, so we might just have a battle for P2 in the GT class in not too long.
Oh, he sees him for sure. He sees him up front now, and that's going to motivate him a lot. You know, in fast laps at the moment, very consistent, very fast laps.
Definitely, it seems a very good match with the AMG GT3.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Because usually he might not be, and this comes down to a question of style in the end, because as you also see on the style of Wybear, he's not the most aggressive driver, but he really just keeps a consistent rhythm.
We see you making a very nice textbook pass on him. He can just continue on unimpeded.
Yeah.
And he will do so now.
Getting closer and closer to Ninja Karma in front. It'll be interesting to see whether his tires drop off or whether Ninja's tires drop off even more, as I had quite some of a CJ moment there.
Literally drop off the track for a moment there.
Yeah, I just took the rally course line.
It'll be interesting to see whether you drop off or...
I might have been on the way to a collision with Ninja Karma at that point. So I think I was just taking evasive action from, what can I say, maybe just committing to something that was a little bit too aggressive for an overtake. But to say the least, at this point I was really trying to push all that I could. I knew that I had a fight with Splurge for P4 and I wanted it so bad. But it'll be interesting to see how that ends up. Ninja Karma just he's struggling to find a rhythm a little bit.
Seems to be a bit more measured through the corners. I think the super soft tires are starting to show the state they're in the handling of the car. He's having to hold off just a little bit, be a bit more cool about when he gets on the throttle, how hard he gets on the brakes. And you can see it does look a bit more measured than it did before, and that's going to cost him.
Yeah, and at the same time,
As
it
I
really
said,
looks
he
like the
just
car.
four-wheel drifts into T1,
it
but
really
that's
looks
T1.
like
I think everyone four-wheel drifts into it.
But the car just looks on its limits to me, and comparing it to the car of Wybear right behind him right now.
Yeah, he's made up a few seconds
looks
again,
much
continuing
more
to just set
composed.
158.
Oh, as Ninja had
Ninja has an incident, and now he's going to make up everything. He's in the slipstream coming down the straight now.
How or is he gonna pass? If he is, how is he gonna do it coming down to turn 5?
This is a very hard corner for worn tires. Ninja doing an excellent job of maintaining pace through there. Wybear did make up a bit of time, but not as much as you could have feared. See him opting for a bit of a defensive inside line there, Ninja. Wybear goes a bit wide.
Yeah, Wybear a little deep on the brakes there, a little bit unlike him, and lost a little bit of time, and that just cost him the opportunity of getting so close in the slipstream here, and maybe even going for the move coming into the carousel right now. I think he's just a little bit too far away, and definitely
lost a little bit of a few meters just.
Ninja Karma also goes wide there, and
you can see the absolute
he's
monumental difference of pace through that corner. He's now right on his bumper, looking for an opportunity. I think we're going to see him try to dive in on the braking, because that's when the tires makes.
This is two
big
former teammates, as we see Wybear on the inside. Now he has the inside line. Oh, this is close to contact, but just held back. Very respectful driving from the both of them there. No damage. Oh, Ninja Karma really struggling.
On the limit, sliding, trying to keep up.
On a two-strap strategy, your pit window would be opening now. So if I were Ninja Karma, I'd definitely opt for the pit stop at this time, as we see CJ closing up to overtake these two competents with a lap. It's going to be interesting as Ninja goes to the inside.
Perfectly measured. He's on the grass. Can he? Oh, he kept it.
And Wybear now
for the defense.
Wybear lining it up for the inside here.
Great traction out the corner, and he's made it past.
Very, very interesting battle. Ooh, as they both get sideways there, and Wybear. Oh, CJ's getting hung up behind this battle. A little bit of contact maybe there, but no damage to Wybear's car. Let's see Ninja's. Also no problem, so that's good to see CJ getting hampered a little bit there for a moment, but
Ninja now having to defend again on these absolutely wrecked tires.
That was very
I did say the Corvette is very good on worn tires, so
the fact that he's
keep that in mind, but this is very impressive stuff, and I can say that having raced this car for a season, it's very impressive indeed from Ninja.
Being able to keep up the fight, and all the while it just makes Nilsemann's lead just grow and grow and grow, because Wybear is not going to be able to put down the lap times that he actually is being hampered a little bit, because you see that he's catching up once more to Ninja Karma, slowly but surely.
This is the corner he made up all that time last time.
Once more.
He does make up space, but not as much as last time. Will he be? He's in the slipstream if he can maintain it through here.
Oh, also here the Corvette just sails wide in understeer. Oh, once more, big understeer.
Strongly held by Ninja, but it's not gonna be enough to stave off the very fast
there's a little bit
recharging.
of paint scrubbing there. Real GT race. It is not so without the paint scrubbing, as Joe is coming up to these two. A very unfortunate point for him. Surely is also going to lose a little bit of time from that.
Good job though, just finding the right places, moving through, and it was almost hard to tell that he was there.
Yeah, definitely he did absolutely a sterling job there.
As Ninja finally dives into the pits.
There it was, Ninja Karma. And how is it going in the LMP race right now? We have Splurge in P5. Joe of the Fire obviously still P2. CJ leading. So the Vert on Fire Audis are having an absolutely dominant display here at the European Grand Prix right now. Tetsu Kobura holding on to P3 in the Rossi Racing Toyota, as we see him coming down through the last corner here. 43.3, so still an absolutely okay pace from Tetsu Kobura being laid down. DirtenDK, myself in P4. Still on somewhat fresh tires. Still hoping that I can hold off Splurge. At this moment I do seem to have a little bit of an advantage, with Splurge also having made his last stop. which makes this a run to the line pretty much now between myself and Splurge for P4 in the LMP class. And probably at this point the only position that really seems to be up for grabs, as we have Nilseman in the pits, and this must be his last scheduled pit stop also.
He's going to continue to come out way ahead of P2, still comfortably in the lead.
Yeah, because who is that? That is one of the LMP cars coming up behind, I think. That is the car
CJ.
CJ, indeed it was. So Nilseman definitely with a really good gap on Wybear, and off Apple up into P3 in the GT class. So well done from him, coming back from several incidents that also carried quite a bit of damage onto him. So very well done, just to pick up the rhythm from that and to get something out of it. As we see Wybear coming into the pits on the medium tires, might actually have expected him to keep on going for a bit longer, but not to be certain of what he'd be actually putting on right now, because it could be something softer than the mediums he had on before.
It almost certainly will be. He's going to be racing for 50 minutes.
Exactly.
But it's going to be impossible for us to tell as we see him pulling out just behind Apple and Ninja, who are doing battle in a tremendous way. To quote the great American president of these days, just huge.
Oh, a little bit of contact there between Ninja, and once more contact, and there is damage to the contact.
That's gonna benefit Wyberg greatly, and this is now turning into a close three-way battle.
Let's see how...
46 minutes into the race, we now have three guys within 15 meters of each other. Oh, as Apple pushes wide, goes on the red paint. Will he pull it in? Oh, almost takes out Wybear, but doesn't.
Well held, lucky that he didn't take out the Indonesian driver for the Mercedes Nukeshot team. It would also be quite a disaster, given that the two guys pretty much are teammates. All things fun. Anyways, Ninja Karma in P2 in the GT class, but he's really having to defend now. A little bit of aero damage there to the front of that Corvette. And let's see how much that will hamper his top speed, as we have Wybear being right up his bumper.
Just so aggressive from him. Every time in that corner he just has the perfect line, makes up almost half a second sometimes on the guy in front, and it completely changes the rest of the lap.
Oh, as off Apple is onto the grass there, getting pressured a little bit by me, not the best.
He just saw a silver a Porsche 919 and got flashbacks and had to get out of dodge.
Something happens right. Oh, there's push off the Ninja. Wybear must also have damage, big damage to Ninja's car. Terrible happening. I don't know what happened there exactly. I remember it from the race, and I remember just being absolutely frightened, but getting on the brakes early enough, luckily not to hit any of the two combatants. And now off Apple is all over the bumper of Wybear, challenging for P2. And how these races can just whip.
Wybear having to struggle with a bit of front aero damage from the incident he had with Ninja that ended his stake in this battle.
So just as we were about to think that Wybear was going to take advantage of the damage to Ninja Karma's car, all of a sudden he is the one receiving a little bit of damage to his front aerodynamics himself, and now he's getting under pressure from off Apple.
As we see Joe of the Fire making a pit stop.
Joe of the Fire almost out of fuel here, necessary pit stop for him. And it will be something of a splash and dash with only 11.5 minutes remaining of the race. Definitely not something that's going to help his chances in catching down CJ. Yes, yes, there's a battle for P4. Splurge just getting in front there. So will there be any answer from myself? A little bit of lag there from Splurge as I go to the outside. You know, he keeps it cool, and seems like the Toyota on the fresh medium tires just has the pace advantage here. And already building up a sizable gap, and a gap that is big enough for me not really to be inside his slipstream, or at least not to be anywhere near close enough to make an attack. As we have Y-Bear still defending his second position off Apple and P3 in the GT class. Ninja Karma, he has damage once more.
Still running with the damage. It's the same, I think. It's because it hasn't been no, he definitely still has damage.
The question is it damage from the same?
Yeah, it's the same damage.
It's the same damage indeed.
Yeah. Rear left and front and rear arrow.
It would be very hard to sustain that damage without any kind of... yes, big moment. Oh, that will certainly not help him.
Oh, is he gonna survive this at all? Nope.
Can we get some Fs in chat for Ninja Karma, please?
What a great race he put on, what a great display he made, but in the end, just not maintaining...
The luck basically needed. The
yeah.
luck needed
I guess.
Multi-class, this mini endurance kind of racing, multi-class racing with traffic and everything. Luck plays a huge part, as we have duly seen today. But Ninja Karma, what a show of things to come. Bird C. John is still leading him. 10 minutes to go, a bit less now. Very consistent lap times from him also, all the way through, and giving the fact that he did a one-stop, those lap times make for a very, very quick race time. Even though there might have been a chance for Joe of the Fire on those super softs had he not been hit through T1, but that is what happens in racing, and you have to take these incidents into account. All things come to the end.
Yeah.
Or whatever you say.
There's no way of looking at your respective lap times and figuring out what your placing will be, because that's not exactly racing, is
No,
it?
exactly. That's exactly my point.
Things happen, and I think one of the things we've seen typically across the season is that the guys that do well, sure, they qualify quickly and stuff, but they also have the least amount of incidents, the least amount of damage. They're typically better on tires. These things that actually make up a great racer. It's nice to be able to set very fast qualifying times, but that's not what wins you races.
Definitely not, and I've seen, just to underline your point here, looking at CJ, actually his improvement and development from last season to this season, because last season he was kind of the driver who would put in the fastest lap of the race, but he would also have a number of incidents along the way, and all that. But he has definitely, so far this year, managed to keep that on a more controlled level. Maybe he's just gotten better. That's really hard to say, but hats off for these two races he's done.
Absolutely.
Considering how many incidents he had last year, he hasn't really had any this year. Very, very, very well done, I must say. And very good job to you, CJ. Chapeau indeed, and let's hope he doesn't get hit too hard by the curse coming into the end of the race. I say this with great fear.
We did start giving out kudos still with 7 and a bit minutes to go, which is a dangerous strategy, but as you said before, all of this has already happened, so
I'm looking,
in theory, it shouldn't matter.
Right now I'm looking at the fuel tank of Splurge, and I'm not quite sure he's actually going to be able to make it to the finish line on that fuel.
You have a point.
If the information is correct, Splurge might still just be needing a pit stop. And in that case, the duel for P4 is very much opening, and it will be really interesting to see. As Ninja Karma just parks it into the grass, maybe just afraid of having contact with CJ.
Just fighting with everything he's got to just make it to the end of the race. He's still running with all of the damage.
With the engine damage.
And you have to wonder why. Why?
Did his mechanics maybe run out of spare parts?
I mean, Corvettes are pretty common, I gotta say. Even the racy boys.
It's probably not that. It was just a theory to come up with something.
Some technical training, maybe. This is a bit of a strange call, because he had such impressive pace, and this just puts him completely out of it.
But talking about impressive pace, Nilseman, that is truly impressive. Those lap times, well, we were talking about it actually last race at Monza, and that the Corvette just had some kind of expectation built into it because it was so good last season. And right now it is absolutely showing that it is still a very, very, very competitive car. Driven in the right hands, of course, but Nilsson showing that he is also back on track. Nilsson, the veteran from GC6, having several race wins. I'm actually not sure whether he actually won the championship or not. I don't think he did, even though he was close and even though he was in a very fast car, the Peugeot 905. I had my first ever Nukeshot appearance in that car at the Motegi circuit, a circuit that I didn't know I didn't take it that seriously at all, and I was absolutely terrible, being lapped by the entire LMP field in a car that must be said to be way superior to all the competitors in GT6. That Peugeot 905 was absolutely amazing. But Nilsson, what a great race he's done. He hasn't had any problems. He's pretty much done what Gugas did in the Toyota in the AM field for the LMPs at Monza. As we see Splurge coming up to overtake. A little bit of a tricky section this to overtake traffic in. Nilsson very much aware of it. Splurge just patient, waiting. Just the right thing to do, because even though the track is wide at this point, there's really more than one line through these corners. Nilsson just taking a very precise line through there. Really nice to see. Wirebear holding on to P2. And we saw him do that for a long time at Monza also. Drive around with damage. Yeah. And it was actually exactly the same damage, if I recall correctly. And
at that time it certainly didn't seem to impede him much at all. We see Nilsson is making a pit stop here.
Nilsson and Splurge is making a pit stop also. Whoop. So Splurge is in the pits. That put me up in P4, and now with just 3 minutes and 40 seconds remaining, this is going to be really close, because there's a 5 or 6 second gap, but he is going to be on, well, probably on super soft tires at this point. I am on worn hards. This is going to be an epic battle, an epic end to the race, because it is not impossible to make up that kind of difference in a couple of laps with this kind of tire difference. I mean, the lap time, he would be looking at lap times of 1 minute 38, 39s if we go really well.
And he's got to be thinking about the pressure as well. He knows he's going to be able to put on pressure. He might make you slow down a bit. This is definitely on.
He is feeling like a shark on the hunt after a weak and injured fish. At this moment, he is smelling the blood, and as he's looking at the gaps, he can just see that gap getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. He is man on the prowl. He is on the hunt right now. Nilsson is still just keeping up his lead. Also, my lap times at this point have deteriorated.
You see your fuel is getting dangerously low as well.
That might be a concern also for my part. Let's see how that goes with the fuel
at
to the end.
At this point, I think every engineer in your staff is nervously watching what the leaders are doing. Will this mean an extra lap than that you were hoping?
Well,
will you
really
get a lap less than you were expecting? What's going to happen? Because this is going to be close stuff.
We have Splurge.
Splurge getting up just behind Apple in a difficult part of the track. He's going to have to hold us just a little bit there.
Lost a little bit of time there.
Apple being courteous and giving him a bit of space, and he makes his way through.
Yep.
Didn't lose a lot of time.
Not a lot, but a little.
Lose some.
Did lose some. Breathes a little bit of life into back into the dreams of Dirten. The dreams of hanging on to 4th position in a race where nothing is really got his way. Anyways,
we said that Splurge lost time, but he did just set his fastest Sector 1 time of the race.
He is really...
Reverse curse of the commentator, ladies and gentlemen.
But this is also the first time that Splurge has been on the super soft, so it might make sense for him to just be on a completely other level. Look at the gap just disappear. He is still on a personal best lap. He is up on his own personal best by 3/10 at this point, so He's absolutely flying, keeping it in third gear here. That means carrying a lot of speed, as I just went a little bit wide there through the carousel, up through the sweeping S's, uphill here. And you just see that gap, it's visibly getting smaller. We don't get the times here in the replay, but that is visibly getting smaller as we're coming out to what I believe will be the last lap. Oh my, this is gonna be... Is there gonna be any way to defend this coming round? This is the last corner, trying to maximize the speed there, taking a big chance there. And Splurge is close, he is really close indeed. Just look at the speed, even in braking as I'm understeering heavily. Splurge keeping the clean line right upon my bumper from a pump. Now this is gonna be a really difficult job to defend. As I just park him on the outside.
You can see he's having to hold off a little bit every time you get on the brakes because he can just brake that much harder.
Let's see what's gonna happen here. He's gonna look to the inside. He tries to fake.
Double.
And he gets his feet on the grass.
Maybe just one too many swerves.
Oh, and we're gonna come up on wire barrier here. What's gonna happen? Coming around one side.
Around him.
On the outside, Splurge. Oh, he's gonna make it! That's the Häkkinen done! That's the Häkkinen of Schumacher from Spa! What an incredible move from Splurge on the last lap to take back P4!
Take another bow.
Fantastic move from Splurge. This is really becoming his thing by now. Pulling off these fantastic overtakes, imitating the greatest drivers of all time on Monza. He did
we're
4 wheels
focusing too much on yourself. We've had Nilsson finish the race as winner of the GT3 field. We'll have CJ crossing the line shortly. Joe is already...
A little bit of flaw in the game there, that Joe was allowed to cross the finish line before CJ. Given that CJ could have had an accident or something on the last lap, he will be completely without pressure.
Basically just doing a bit of a parade
last
now.
lap. As we see, he's coming up, Splurge, and I've run out of fuel, I think. I've run out of fuel at this point. So no matter what, it would never have been 4th place for me. Just not enough fuel to make them crawling to the line there. Absolutely, in the most embarrassing of ways.
Making his way, having done the last stint with aero damage, finishing in 2nd position in the GT3 field.
Another great race from Wybear. Having already given kudos to Nilsson for his fantastic performance,
Apple
but
and
also
his mechanics having done amazing measuring, crosses the finish line with almost nothing to go.
That is really
impressive stuff.
And with that said, that concludes the race. This was the 2nd round of the series, the Nukeshot Endurance Series. It was the first race, and we will be back hopefully on Monday for race 2 in the reverse split, as we see this picture of Splurge pulling off the Häkkinen. Such a great move. I really had, my heart rate was exploding there on that last lap. It was amazing.
Yeah, that was a very good close final battle. It seems to be a thing that we're getting, quite fortunately, in the series so far, that everything comes back together in the end. Sometimes when you do these series, things kind of settle after like 20 minutes and nothing really happens. There's no real developments.
That's true.
So far in this season, both in the previews and in the 3 actual races we've had, there's always been very interesting developments as the race went on, and it's become interesting, even more interesting towards the end.
I think it's true. It's very much true, and it's becoming apparent that I think the details of the series, the fuel settings, the tire settings, the time settings, all this combo is really well balanced. The different strategies play out. They come into their strength at different points of the race.
Yeah.
And you as a driver have to be really good at being strong when your car is strong, being fast when you have the potential to actually be faster. Then you'll be decisive, and it's really showing off. And I think these 2 or 3 first races, even without the preview events, have actually really shown that. So
yeah, very interesting close racing, and it seems like the format really benefits different strategies as well. I think sometimes you see that there's like a set meta, as you call it in other games. There's a set strategy of playing. So the entire LMP field will be on X tires with X fuel doing X stops. It's not like that so far in this series.
Definitely not. Definitely not. Also because the different strategies play well with different styles of driving and so on. So there isn't just one set way of getting from A to B or from start to finish to the fastest way. And that's really nice to see.
Yeah.
But anyways, we're going to round off now. It's been such a pleasure having you watching. My name is DirtenDK.
I'm Traels666.
You've been watching Half the Race Gone. Until next time, see you again.